the Countryside Podcasts with Chris Skinner.
What's that? Grasshopper, is it?
No. Would you believe that's exactly what I wanted?
Well, that's an amazing story. So this is, I couldn't believe I now saw that a little bit bigger.
Another one?
Yeah.
Oh, they're tiny, aren't they? Oh, there he goes.
Another one here.
Yeah.
Another one here.
Oh, there we go. Wonderful to be back at High Ash Farm. There's a bit of cloud this morning, a bit coolish, but we're in the midst of July, an English summer. And the ground's a little bit damp. There's been some overnight rain, bit of a storm going on, but we're next to the lake at High Ash Farm, and I've just bumped into Chris Skinner, who's been on all fours, picking something out of the grass, something hopping.
Matthew, we're spoilt this morning. We've had an event at High Ash Farm. That's the only way to describe it. We're by the lake here at High Ash Farm, about 1,000 square metres of water surface, and in mid-April I brought you down here and we kind of marvelled at the huge gelatinous clumps of frog spawn, and it was interlaced with toad spawn as well, which is laid in long strings right on the water's edge here.
Just like tapioca pudding,
That's exactly what it looked like, my school lunches. Oh dear. So fortunately it's unappetising, and the local herons and the mallard left it all alone. And then I brought you back about 3 weeks after that, so we were almost into May at that point, and looked down in the water. I mean, we didn't have to look very far. It's just beneath the surface. It was black. The sun was shining and the surface of the water was quite warm, and it was ideal for the tadpoles of both those amphibious species. And we kind of followed it through another week or two. We could see tiny little legs coming out of the rear end of both the species of tadpoles. And then they kind of disappear. They went down into the deeper water and they were hard to see. And you kind of forget about them. But now we're in sort of mid-July-ish, beautiful summer's weather. It's a little bit cooler this morning, if anything. But because there was some dampness overnight, this event happens sort of once a year. It's almost as though where we're standing, the Pied Piper was calling, but not to children. It was calling to the young frogs and toads. So they went through the egg stage, which was the frog spawn. They went through the tadpole stage. Then they started another stage where they reabsorbed those tadpole tails and start to develop gills. That means that they can breathe air rather than getting the oxygen from the water. And this magic event, it's almost as though all the inhabitants, the frogs, the froglets and the toadlets, if you like to call them that, are possessed with this spirit to leave the water simultaneously. And all round the periphery of the lake, there are literally tens of thousands of baby frogs and toads. You can tell which is which, even at this stage. To give you an idea, they're about the size of my little fingernail. And they're perfect replicas of their parents, which has also deserted the water itself, and they're living on sort of dry land looking for worms, and there's lots of vegetation all the way round. I leave the grass uncut, as you can see. It's about 1 metre tall. Just as we walked here, I suddenly spotted what I thought was initially a grasshopper or a cricket, just moving about in the grass quite quickly. They're very vulnerable because a little bit further away from the lake, this is a horse track. The horses can ride round, and we're right next to permissive access, and the whole ground is covered in these. This is why I was on my hands and knees when you saw me. I am an impoverished farmer, but I also look at the ground and notice this, and in my hand, I hope it's still, I can feel something wriggling. Oh, look at that. Wow. 2 perfect little froglets.
The long back legs.
Yes, long back legs, ready, and yeah, they
jump.
They jump, and that's how you can tell the difference. Still, hardly a tail visible. This one's feigning death, and it's completely all right, but they will...
and then you've
that
lost
one's
one.
gone.
Into the grass.
And that one's gone. This one's just moving now. And so what they do, the tail gets reabsorbed, and this can...
Just watch out, it's right next to your foot there.
It is. It's jumped onto the ground there, so I'll stand back. But the whole of this grass strip is covered in tens of thousands, and if you trawled through with a fine net into the water, you wouldn't find any at all.
They're all up here, about 6 foot from the edge.
Yes, that's right. And so there's enough cover for them, because at this stage they're vulnerable. In the water they were vulnerable to... You can see it's actually getting through the grass at quite a rate of knots. Look, it's heading back to cover that one.
It's like going through a mountain range for that poor
I'll
thing.
pop this one back. Here we go. Pop that one in there. And that's gone back.
And he's heading towards
towards the grass margin. It probably won't go back in the water, but it'll eat tiny insects. It's got to be self-sufficient, from the word go, obviously, because Mum has deserted it. She won't come back to this water. There's no parental care at all with these tadpoles, initially what they were.
Oh, there's another one there.
Yeah, they're all over the place. The whole thing is swarming. As I said, there's this invisible urge for them to desert the water environment and to spend the rest of the year on land, and they might not be sexually mature next spring, so they'll be about half grown perhaps by then. They will feed voraciously from now on. Any small insects, tiny worms, anything they can eat will be in this long grass.
So they're slow to come to maturity, unlike some animals who after a year are almost fully grown.
Yes, yeah, so it can take some time, and that's the thing with them, that they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable in the water because there's a species of fish in this water. There's some fry in there, the juveniles, and they're called rudd, and they would think a sort of fully mature tadpole is sort of really manna from heaven, I suppose you'd call it.
Nice bit of caviar.
Yeah, exactly. And once they're out of the water, they're vulnerable yet again. So little owls hunt round here, owls, and all the way around the edge of this lake, 2 or 3 times a day, the local heron comes and very carefully walks round the edge, and I've got a little video which I hope to put on High Ash Farm Facebook for this Sunday's podcast, of the heron not taking one of these froglets. They're too small to watch it, but it just really quickly, expert fishermen picked out one of the sort of rudd, the young rudd, about 2 inches long, and gulped it down, and that was fortunately breakfast. But nevertheless, these tiny little froglets and toadlets, thousands of them, are vulnerable, and that's why I think frogs produce such a prodigious amount of spawn, and the toads as well, thousands of those little eggs, because it's food for everything else. It's eat or be eaten out in the Norfolk countryside. So I do feel sorry for them. They're so vulnerable, but the population here is fantastic. The water entering and leaving the lake is really high quality, and it's superb for them. So there's lots of floating organisms and vegetation in there, some cyclops and daphnia, all the little water fleas, which make it up into a really healthy environment.
You've lost about 18 inches of water, but it must be a relief that actually the water level has held up, considering the lack of rain this year.
Yes, I know. We've just recently had a total of 12 millimetres of rain. That sounds quite a bit. It's in old money, it's just a fraction under half an inch. That's about 50 tonnes an acre that we've had over the last day or two, and that's hugely welcome. A farmer this time of the year will smile wryly and say, well, it's worth about £1 a drop, that is. Because you know what farmers are like, of which I'm one. But the lake's about 18 inches lower than normal, I suppose.
You can see bare earth around.
Yes, all the way around.
But actually there's a fair depth to it still.
Yes, that's the thing with water features. Part of the feature needs to be very shallow, and if you want to see the fish down at the far end there, it's about a foot deep. When the sun's on it, the water is really warm, and the fish swarm down there and form these sort of really large collections, several thousand of them together, and all of a sudden if something frightens them, they sort of froth the water up and create confusion. All these tiny little fry, about some an inch long, some 2 inches long, some 3 inches. They're all kind of sunbathing, and they make the water boil just to confuse any predators that might be flying over. It's an amazing sight, and they will stay in here. Some might get out over the overflow during the winter months and flow down the stream which joins the River Tass, only about half a mile away, and that's the next subject for this podcast, because something magical has happened about half a mile from us on one of the bends of the River Tass. I've been watching it carefully. I had to keep quiet about it until a special event had happened, and we'll go to the other side of the lake in a minute. We'll creep round and we'll start the magical bit of this week's podcast.
And off goes Rat. Look, he knows when things are moving. A couple of ducks lazily swimming away from us, but that's not why we've come to the other side of the lake.
Matthew, I do some strange things in the course of the week between your visits for the podcasts that we jointly do. And beside us is a sort of broom handle popped into the mud, and another small handle at this end of it, and then a 6 foot long piece of stick that I found in the hedge behind us out over the water. Now, I started to tell a story a few minutes ago about the River Tass, which is approximately half a mile away from us. Because on the bend of the River Tass, it's flooded once or twice during the last year or two and swept some of the bank when the river turns at quite a sharp angle, and it's left the perfect surface above the water for one of our most beautiful, in fact probably one of our most colourful waterside birds that is in the UK, and that's the kingfisher. And they've reared 3 young from the nest. They've fledged and left, and that's why I can now talk about it, because nobody will go back near that nest. It's the most smelliest nest that you could possibly think. Kingfishers nest in holes in riverbanks. They will nest in other situations, under old tree stumps, and for instance, if suitable habitat's not available. It's a bird that's sort of on the brink. Sometimes it does quite well, sometimes, and particularly in the past, it's been heavily persecuted where fish hatcheries are. There's nothing can sort of get the temper up in anglers than watching the fry, things like trout, if you've got a fishery and the kingfisher sitting nearby, just continually pouncing into the water and taking out your hard-earned fry out of there, which grow into larger fish. Rat has to have a word in each podcast, doesn't he? He's thinking of disappearing into the brambles behind us. What are you doing?
He's found a friend on the other side of the hedge.
Something's over there.
But I mean, the point is, I suppose anglers are just jealous of the prowess of the kingfisher.
Absolutely, and their beauty perhaps as well. And kingfishers were heavily persecuted even in the early to mid-1900s, and it was about 1981 the Wildlife and Countryside Act came into force and gave them official protection. But sadly, a lot of the kingfishers that are found dead have been shot still. It's still a heavily persecuted bird, believe it or not, but we're here to celebrate them because the adults have deserted the nesting site down there. The young are still down there, but they're coming to this sort of ready takeaway here because it's easy fishing. It's stuffed with young rudd, and there's a few trout in here as well in the sort of 2-inch wide stage. There's also a few fish in here called bullheads. I have seen minnows in here as well. Been watching carefully, and another species which will make you smile called gudgeon. Now, the kingfisher will swallow the minnows down whole. They usually just pop their head up and swallow them down. Sticklebacks in running water are much trickier to eat, and so the kingfisher will catch those, sit on the little perch type thing that I've made here. It's a bit of an artificial one. and then it bashes the fish 2 or 3 times until it's dead, and then it juggles the fish in its beak and swallows it down, so the spines are then laying flat, and they can regurgitate any indigestible parts as well, which is what the young kingfishers do in their nest burrow. So kingfishers build a hole, sometimes from scratch in a riverbank, or sometimes they'll enlarge an old existing hole, something made by a water vole or something like that. And the hole can be anything from 6 to 9 inches deep, with a nest chamber at the bottom, at the end of it, I should say. Or even longer in sandy soils where it's easy digging. They can go in a couple of feet and then have an enlarged chamber at the end where they lay sort of probably about early March. They can bring off 2 broods. Early March, 6, sometimes 7 eggs in there, which are pinkish to start with. Once they're being incubated, they turn a sort of ivory white and shiny, and then incubations probably 18, 19, 20 days, something like that, and the young are obviously no feathers on them, very ugly looking reptilian creatures, and both parents incubate, both parents feed them. They're very diligent, and they fly quite a distance. So some of the walkers that come through High Ash Farm from one of the car parks here contacted me and said, Chris, we've just seen something unusual. We've seen a kingfisher flying through the wood at the bottom, following up the stream which goes through the woodland here. And I had to smile because I knew the answer, and I daren't say they're nesting nearby, because I looking after the environment with special things in it, like the orchids we have, like the kingfisher, the otters that come here. It's rather like having a museum without a lock on any of the keys, on any of the exhibits, I should say.
Word gets around.
It does, and one thing you can't do with some of the special creatures that live here is too much disturbance. Although we're standing here, we just got sworn at by a moorhen in the background there somewhere.
You've got a lovely little family of moorhen that we saw earlier.
Yes, yeah, they've come all the way round here, and they're sort of secreted themselves in the undergrowth.
The adults with their red beaks. But
Right.
it's the colour of kingfishers that a lot of people remark on, isn't it?
This is the whole thing. Most people, the only contact you see with the kingfisher is either in a glass case in a museum or flashing along at great speed along the river. They're tiny birds, only about 6 inches from tip of beak to tip of tail, and I suppose it's going to have to be one of our most colourful birds. It's cobalt blue on the wings, red to orange on the breast. The female's got a little bit of red under her beak. The beak is long and dagger-like. The head is kind of outsized compared to the size of the body, but the crowning jewels are this line from the back of the head all the way down the back to the tail of this kind of azure blue. So you've got cobalt blue, azure blue, and it depends how the light strikes the feathers, because it's kind of refractive is the only way to describe it. And if you look at the kingfisher in a particular way, it's green rather than that sort of Mediterranean blue.
And they're small as well.
Oh, tiny. Yes, 6 inches. But the head is kind of outsized, and the feet, to finish it all off, are kind of sealing wax red. They're amazing birds, really skilled hunters, that dagger-like beak, so they'll dive into the water, and that's why this little perch is here. There, to the stake, is slightly camouflaged, is my camera, and would you believe I've been filming them for about a week now? So you'll notice the date on the bottom of the camera. Hopefully, together with that heron, both eating my fish, these creatures. So you have to see, when you're into conservation, you have to kind of stand back or you pull your hair out. The local barn owls eat my harvest mice. I love them both, but it really is a conundrum sometimes looking after nature. But the camera's picked up. The early morning sun has just caught the kingfisher, and so you have that beautiful plumage. They're not successful with every dive here, so I've been watching them carefully on the camera. When I get back and have my lunch, I can actually turn it on and see how I've managed to record them, get them in focus. And I suppose an adult kingfisher will capture fish about every third dive, I suppose, so they're not always successful, and the young about every 10th dive. They're not very proficient like their parents, and if they dive too much, the plumage gets wet, and kingfishers have been recorded as actually drowning themselves because they've done too many dives and not enough fish for breakfast.
I have to say, Chris, you've shown me those pictures, which are going to be on the High Ash Facebook site.
Yes.
And the big surprise for me was it was a very clear image of one of the kingfishers hovering.
Yes, well, generally they haven't been equipped with a nice perch like I've put here for them. Little bit artificial, but that's the only way, when I'm not here, the kingfisher's here, because they're quite shy of people. And so it kind of works how their style of fishing is. They can fly along water, or they'll use a perch, some reeds or something, and look down into the water. They've got really good eyesight, and then they plunge into the water. But the way you can do it, if you're out on an expanse of water, slow-flowing rivers, gravel pits, lakes like this, even streams in towns, and I've often sat in the middle of Norwich and I can look up and see the time on the town hall clock. It's at the bottom of Grapes Hill. There's an area of water on the Wensum there where the ships used to turn round, having delivered products into Norwich. It's called the New Mills at that point. I've sat on the riverbank and watched kingfishers fishing right in the middle of Norwich, so they will cope with human habitation sometimes, but their method of fishing over large expanses of water is to hover over it, and I actually caught that with the camera. That's the first time I've seen it in the flesh. I've often watched them on the riverbank in Norwich, but generally they perch up, dive in, come back, bash what they've caught, swallow it, but then they'll take that back to the young if the young are still in the nest. But why I mentioned nobody will go back near the nest is the young sort of regurgitate uneaten parts, and they also excrete. So when the parents deliver food, the parents generally come out of the nest hole, which they were doing, and have a wash in the water because it's pretty smelly after 3 weeks in the nest before they fledge. It's a diabolical place, and you can actually see sort of a black line of excrement coming out of the hole. Somebody's just walking right past us with a couple of dogs, and one dog in a wheelchair as well. That's a very ancient dog, and Rat's taking exception to this. So there we are, the story of the kingfisher. Now, just a little bit of history. If you've come across the word halcyon, it's the Greek word for kingfisher, and in Greek mythology, kingfishers were meant to nest out on the water and calm it, and that's the definition of halcyon. It's calm, peaceful, tranquil. So it's a Greek name for kingfisher.
You throw away these comments, halcyon days.
Exactly.
But we don't know what they mean until now.
No, that's right. It's the Greek for kingfisher, and it's still in use, and one of our most beautiful birds. I'm so thrilled to share that with you. So if you wonder what I do from Monday to Monday, I'm either on my hands and knees collecting young frogs to show you, just as I did, filming kingfishers, and then with a pair of scissors, which is in the truck, that's our next destination, and I've got a little job for you to do, Matthew.
We come to the eastern side of the farm, quite away from where we were, down at the lake. Different sort of undulating countryside here, so attractive, the small fields and everything about it here. But in front of us, Chris, something rather unusual.
Extremely unusual, so far as to say I think it's unique. There's 2 hectares, which is 5 acres in old money, and I've been wanting to do this for years because all over the farm we have areas of different soil types that suit different plants. We've got lots of yellow flowers in flower, and that's called bristly oxtongue, and it's extremely prickly. It's one we haven't talked about and covered before, and you hardly dare get hold of any part of it.
Oh yes.
It's all the way up the stem and the leaves. If you run your fingers up it, you'll find it's extremely abrasive.
It's like when I haven't shaved for 3 days.
Yes, yeah, well. So, then the rest of it, there's some white flowers here which have flat tops and just coming into flower. Some of them are poking out over the top of the taller plants. That's called wild carrot, and that's brilliant for moths and insects. Oh, and a little flock of goldfinches going across the top, bobbing along. It's a family of 5 or 6 there, just flying past us, and they will have been out on these plants, which is my speciality. It's teasels. So I thought I'm going to do something really unusual, and I've made a bit of a fool of myself last week because I've created a teasel maze.
Not a maze, but this is made up entirely of teasels, which can grow very tall.
Exactly. And so as we go in, and you've got a little job to do before we get walking into the maze. How embarrassing, but I better confess right now, I got lost in my own maze on the lawnmower. You couldn't believe it.
They didn't have to send a rescue party.
No, it took me ages to try and work out how to get out of it. And so it's just for fun. It's free. It's right beside Boudicca's Way, which runs down the eastern side of High Ash Farm. And there's 2 stakes here at the entrance of the walk. There's only one entrance and one exit, which is the same. And so you've got to find your way to the centre of the maze, which is way over in a distance where that further electricity pole is. But in my hand, I'm just going to hold the microphone for a second, pair of scissors, and we're going to officially open High Ash's 2025 teasel maze. And instead of ribbon, because it's for farm, binder twine.
bit of the old, yes, orange binder twine.
Yes, orange binder twine.
Well, I'm delighted to have the honour, and this is very colourful teasel as well now, with this lovely purple colour and a huge expanse of it in front of us, and this path going into the distance, I know not where, but here we go. The teasel maze for 2025 is officially
open. There we are. Well done. Well snipped.
Thank you very much.
There. I'll keep the scissors.
Do I get to have a go now?
Yes, come on. We're going to stride in because there's a little bit of drizzle just descending from the cloud.
A lot of blue sky up towards the north there.
Yeah, sort of way up. We can see right up to the Norfolk coast over there. That's a good 20-25 miles minimum we can see.
I can see wind turbines.
Yes, you can. Well spotted there at Lenwade. That's about 12 miles. And in the evening, when the sun sets, it sometimes sets at this time of the year right behind them in line with High Ash Farm, and you can have this flicker. It's an amazing, amazing sight. So we're now starting to go in, and as we walk in further, something strange happens. The soil, which is really good sort of wheat growing land here, suddenly goes to pure clay. And the teasels here are about 3 foot high. And how do we know it's clay? Look what's happened. The ground, because it's been so dry at High Ash Farm, has shrunk and gone into these plates. Now, these are my scissors, which are about 11 inches long, and I can lose them down the crack. The whole pair of scissors, I can get my hand in there.
These are like tectonic plates.
Exactly. Look at it. It's really as though there's been an earthquake here, because the ground is the clay is so heavy that it shrinks in dry weather. It's not good to build a house on this because it would interfere with the footings. Some of the cracks, look there, Matthew, we can see right down into that one, over a foot deep.
And quite wide as well.
Yes, and in where those 2 oaks are, at the edge of the teasel maze, is a pond, and the Saxons used to dig clay from it and make burial urns.
Oh, now here we have a problem. We've got a left fork or a right fork.
Yes.
So this is the first little conundrum in this
Exactly.
labyrinth.
Yes, so we're now walking due westwards now.
So we take a right.
Yes,
And we're surrounded by these beautiful teasels as well, which the insects love.
Look at that. Nearly every teasel head has a bee on it, and that's part of it. The fun part of this, the educational part, is you can't take a shortcut in Skinner's teasel walk because you get scratched to pieces. Teasels are formidable. Look at the stem of that one. Just there.
It's got razor wire all up and down there, isn't it?
So it's no good coming here in shorts. And
this is much better than a maize, because I mean that's not for wildlife, is it? Maize growing isn't going to promote all these pollinators.
No. So we've now got a
crossroads.
A crossroad. Oh my word! And I'm starting. What we'll do?
We've gone right. Now we'll go left.
We'll go left now.
We have to reverse it on the way back.
And the reason for this being here is for insects in the summer. So anybody who loves their photography, you can walk in here and you can get some stunning shots. Look at this. The teasel's now flowering nicely. That's a bumblebee. That's a buff-tailed bumble right on the edge of your microphone.
Yeah, look with the sun out now as well, the lovely violet colour.
Yeah, it's absolutely superb.
And every one of them has a bee on.
So, and when it's a little bit warmer, because it's still fairly early morning, the butterflies will come out, and we've recorded half a dozen painted ladies here already. Lots of red admirals feeding on the nectar. So teasel's a really good conservation plant. Dipsarchus phelonium, the scientific name, and Dipsarchus is another one of those Greek words. We keep referring to Greek. One of the bees on the ground, they get a bit disorientated with all the nectar there. And can you see where the leaves join the stem on the teasels? It forms a little cup. Look, and there's
reservoir of
water in it all the way down.
Below.
No, there's hardly been any rain. So we're now getting in. Can you notice something as we're going in? We're going onto heavier soil. The teasels are getting higher and higher. And this is where it gets difficult, because we've got to kind of remember what we've done to get to this point, how we've walked here, because I have a morbid fear that we're going to be losing children in here, because if a mum brings the children in, you need to keep your children with you on this one, because otherwise there'll be lots of high-pitched screaming, and I'll have to send out a search party.
Yes, and over the top of these plants, you can't actually see the other paths.
No, and they will grow at least another foot. That one's 5 foot tall there beside us. The majority where we are perhaps 3.5 to 4 feet tall, and the bit we're now going into, they're 6 to 7 feet tall. And there's a perfect example of how the clay shrinks and why the Saxons thought it was a good idea, good pottery clay, to make their pots from the clay just here. We've got Saxon Cemetery just on the west side of High Ash Farm. So we now get to more choices.
So we went right, then we went left, and now we're going to
go right again now.
Right, yes. And this is sort of T-junction here, followed by another one. Oh my goodness.
Right, I don't think we dare go any further. Well, we'll do a little bit more. Because
this is what drags people in. You say, oh, just do a little bit more.
Yes. I can resist anything but temptation. So we're now at the 5 foot height level, and quite shortly we carry on. We go into 6 foot high section, and I can hear buzz of bees. If it's a fraction warmer, this would be absolutely covered in butterflies, which are here, but they're just not on the wings, so they're nigh impossible to see. Now we've got a double junction here, and just look at the bumblebees on this. And if you're into photography, this is absolutely superb, absolutely incredible sight.
Oh, so wonderful, isn't it? And these really are taller than us now, aren't they? Yeah. Are we warm? Are we near the middle? Swallows flying into one of the large barns at High Ash Farm, feeding their young. This is one of the big conservation success stories I know you're very proud of.
Just brings a huge delight. 4 youngsters just waiting for mum and dad.
The podcast aims to bring you sights and sounds like this every week. and we're very thankful of your support. So any donations or subscriptions are very welcome indeed.
All we need is a little bit of extra help. It just keeps it going from week to week.
Monthly or one-off subscriptions, whatever the size, and the website highashfarm.com/podcast.
6 youngsters right above our head, all with their gates wide open. No, we're not even halfway. To give you an idea, it's over 1 kilometre of mown tracks through teasels. That's over 1,000 metres. In fact, there's about 1,200 metres of walks, and they curl round, and there's a lot of false ends. So you think you're getting to the pole, which is, we're nowhere near it. It's right over there. And there's no direct route to it. You've got to get the right combination of lefts and rights. Yeah. So whether we can find our way back out, if not, join us again on next week's podcast. We'll be very happy to welcome you back. We just need some food to be dropped in from above, I think.
Well, come and experience this labyrinth of teasel plants. Chris has made a fairly generous sort of pathway through, but it's a bit of a challenge, and I know you like a challenge, so do come along on the eastern side of High Ash Farm next to Bodica's Way, which is a public footpath.
Yes, exactly, and it is just for fun, but if you have a camera with you, it will create a memory that will stay with you a long time, because it's very photogenic here. The colour, just the peace and tranquility, the halcyon of the countryside.
Yeah, there's that word again. Oh, well, the sun's out now, it's gorgeous. We only had a little splattering of rain. We've got some emails to answer as well. But there, in the truck, what have you seen, Chris?
Oh, Matthew, just through here, I think I've seen our first butterfly and something. Yes, there. Look at that.
Oh, lovely.
Look at that. Red admiral just through there, imbibing the nectar. Orange and black. We did red admirals last week, one of our migrant species, so watch out as well.
And look at these bumblebees everywhere.
Absolutely. Oh, look, another one. 2 red admirals side by side, and that's what happens. The sun's just come out. High ash butterflies are trained for the sunshine. Look, right in front of us. What a picture.
Even Rat's enjoying himself in there. He's creating a new path.
Well, he'll be lucky. I couldn't walk through there.
This is a teasel maze then. Pretty much a new idea, I think. So, Chris, well done. Congratulations. And now, of course, you're going to do the honourable thing and lead me out. Now,
see you next week is all I'm going to say.
Now, we got excited about those butterflies. We've gone past a couple of junctions here. Can you remember?
No, that's what happened with me on the mower. How embarrassing.
Right, well, we need to get to those emails. So, what was it Captain Oates said? I may be some time.
And that's true.
I'm delighted to report that Chris and I have both made it safely out of the maze, and we're back here at the van, so I'll be home in time for lunch today then.
I think so, yes. We did really well, and we didn't leave a trail laying a piece of string or something.
Or little bits of paper, like a paper chase.
No, not allowed.
Email from Heather, who lives on the Isle of Man. I'm hoping you can tell me what is happening with this caterpillar. Is it a small white, she says. There's a photograph of it here. Very small little image. The first picture was taken yesterday. The second today. I plant nasturtiums in my window boxes every year for the butterflies and have raised quite a few over the years. I've never seen this phenomenon though, and have no idea what's happening. So Heather Hurt on the Isle of Man, and 2 photographs. And well, there's this strange thing happening with the caterpillar in the second shot.
Yes, now if you look closely, and I had to get a magnifying glass to enlarge it, the poor caterpillar has been parasitised by a species of wasp, and what's happened is the wasp has injected the caterpillar I think, although the image is very small, with some eggs. The eggs have hatched out inside the caterpillar, and I think the caterpillar is now deceased. And then the eggs have now pupated just on the outside, ready for the parasitic wasp species, of which there's lots. Most of the parasitic wasps are incredibly colourful. There's one species we have here at the farm which parasitises the mason bee nests, lays its eggs inside, eats the grubs inside, and then hatches out as a wasp. So I think that's what's happened. So I blew up the little image as best I could, and so I could examine it, and I think there's 4 or 5 little caterpillars which are just pupating in a little sac on the edge of the caterpillar. I might be wrong, but that's almost certainly what it looks like. You can just make them out inside there, but parasitic wasps are really common on many of our butterfly caterpillar species, the first or the second part of the metamorphosis that they all go through. So I'm pretty certain that's what's happened, and I'm almost certain it is the caterpillar of a small white, which love feeding on nasturtiums and other crucifer plants as well. So there we are. Well, thank you very much for that image. It's a bit of a gruesome tale, so if you're having breakfast, that's perhaps best to just think about what's happening there to the poor caterpillar. But it's quite a common phenomena.
From out in the Irish Sea, we go to the North Sea coast. And one of your favourite places I know to get away from it all is down at Aldborough in Suffolk, isn't it? And Steve Angel has emailed to say it was a great pleasure to meet you and chat while you were walking along the river in Aldborough. I wanted you to know that I listened to 2 of the podcasts on my drive from Thorpeness, which is next door to Aldborough, down to London. Thoroughly enjoyed them, impressed with how you've created such a sensory and almost visual experience through an audio podcast.
Yes.
Well, that's the name of the game, isn't it?
I suppose so, yes. I haven't realised when I talked to you that we're actually creating pictures as well as understanding the words and description of the wildlife here. It's all unintentional. It's kind of innate in me to share what I've been brought up with here at the farm. And I was at Aldborough to firstly look at the swifts, and now the little town there has welcomed swifts by putting up lots of swift nest boxes. But then something else caught my attention. Just on the outskirts, on the southern side of Aldborough, there's a yacht refurbishment place. I think it's called Slaughden Yachts, I should say. And somebody has put in about 20 sand martin nest boxes, and the whole building was swarming in sand martins. Normally they'll nest in sort of river cliffs and places like that, perhaps on the North Norfolk coast, but to see them there was, together with the swifts and swallows flying around, was a monumental achievement. And I didn't take my recorder because I don't like to be away from the farm too long, so I popped down, popped back, and that was actually worth the visit to see that and some of the other conservation work that other people undertake. I'm not the only one who does it, and lots of people are finding it's a new way of just enjoying and sharing the natural world with the rest of us and the wildlife.
The email address is on the High Ash Farm website. Just go there for more details and how to donate to keep this podcast going. This weekly hour, a taste of Norfolk wildlife that Chris brings vividly to life. Of course, there are costs involved, so anything you can do on that front is very helpful, and thanks to everyone who's donated so far.
Yes, you're telling me. It's a huge pleasure, as always, to invite you here each week. I don't know quite what we do from week to week. It just happens. Nature kind of explodes right in front of us, and we've had a wonderful visit this week, particularly if you get the chance to look at High Ash Farm Facebook and see that kingfisher doing what kingfishers do. That is absolutely stunning.
Right, we're finished now, so I'm going to have a go at this maze. I love a challenge.
All right.
I'll see you maybe next week.
Maybe.